Okay. Welcome to Monday Night Therapy. How is everybody doing? My God. It's like if I take a week off, I forget how to do an intro. I forget everything. I'm here with Mark Schafer. He's a Washington Husky guy. He's a contributing Q&A guy for the UW Dog Pound, a website you might as well get to know. We do not play Washington in football this season, but we have 21 other sports. And I'm guessing maybe we're going to play Washington in there somewhere. And well, welcome, Mark. How you doing?
Doing great, John. Thank you for having me.
Well, we've just started. You might like 30 minutes into this. You're like, oh my God, what the hell? That's what's
It's that kind of atmosphere, huh?
it could be because we're going to start like this. Last year, Washington finally gets all their stuff together, and Kalin Deboer, they get to the national title. They go 14-0. They get to the national title game through the college football playoff. They win the Pac-12 in its last year. And then they lose to Michigan. What was it? 34-13.
Yeah, it was.
Hey,
I tell you, being there at the game,
oh,
and we
wow.
sat. My mom, dad, and I sat behind a bunch of Michigan fans, and it became clear, like end of the first possession. I'm like, this is gonna be a long game.
Well, they had, well, we won't go into Michigan.
Yeah,
After that, I mean, it's the end of the Pac-12. The last play of the Pac-12 it was last night. Oregon State cut. Good Lord, the language struck out looking. Don't go to the College World Series. The Pac-12 is done. Kalin Deboer leaves, goes to Washington. Your football team. Everybody left your football team, didn't they?
yeah, pretty much everybody. Every starter on offense and like all but three starters on defense.
Oh my God! I thought I was
It
making a
was
joke. I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah, it was a bloodbath, dude.
Well, and on top of that, you leave your in-state rival behind to die in a ditch somewhere. I mean,
I mean, I wouldn't put it like that. It sounds cruel when you put it like that.
well, it's a big business now. So
Yeah.
what do you think of all of this? What do you think? What's your thought about coming into the Big Ten? Let's start there.
You know, it's going to be really weird. It's going to be so weird playing. We have Indiana and Iowa on a back to back on the road. And it's going to be like, ugh, I would not wish that travel on anybody.
Well, but
Uh,
you get to go to Indiana and Ohio and Iowa, though. I mean,
yeah.
those
I
are,
mean, Kinnick Stadium, Memorial Stadium, they're beautiful. I mean,
yeah.
I like watching their games when they're on TV. But if I were to blame anybody for the dissolution of the Pac-12, I would blame the commissioner and the university presidents for not getting a media deal done. That is why we're here, and that is why we had to move to the Big Ten.
So, are you looking forward to it, or is it
Yeah,
just
yeah. I think it's gonna. So it's gonna be a year of adjustment, but I think after that, I'll kind of see like, okay, this is who we're gonna play. This is how it's gonna go, and then we'll go from there.
so? You're young.
Yeah.
You don't have all these established anger. You haven't established a whole lifetime of anger against these opponents, and then they've all gone away.
Well, I've established a lifetime of anger against the Pac-12 opponents, but or Pac-10, I guess I should say.
That's true. That's true. Um, so, what else? What else are you looking forward to moving to the Big Ten? I guess.
Just seeing the other teams that you don't get to see as often, like Nebraska. I would group Nebraska in with like Indiana, Iowa, teams like that don't get a lot of attention. You know, your Penn States, your Ohio States, your because like to tell you the truth, John, I have
Yeah.
watched like one or two Nebraska games within 5 years.
Well, I don't think anybody's going to blame you for that. I mean, if you'd have said zero, that'd have been fine. We've been pretty Well, we've been pretty shitty for like 20, so there was no
Yeah.
reason for anybody outside the. Uh, there's no reason for anybody outside Nebraska or our opponents to really watch us, other than
There,
to
there
watch.
there was a stretch of a couple of years where you guys were like, not like, well, they went to the Big 12 title game, and then they
That was a wild go.
went 7-5 and 8-4, which is respectable enough.
Oh
So it
my
hasn't been all
God!
bad. What?
That's so long ago we did those things, Mark. It's like you're stabbing me.
Sorry.
We did have this season where we were the best 3-9 team in the history of college football. The one loss team.
What?
Okay, going back to, so Washington's leaving Washington State behind. Kalin Deboer went to Alabama. Do you have any hard feelings against him? Anything?
I do have hard feelings against him, but I do not harbor any hard feelings against his assistants, if that makes sense.
Actually, why is that?
So, during the season last year, people were asking him, like, oh, are you going to sign a contract? Like, what's the status on that? What are you going to do once the season's over? And he's like, I'm just focused on the season. I'm focused on winning. And then we'll get to it after the season. And then I feel like since he hired Nick Saban's agent, Jimmy Sexton, I feel like he had it planned the entire time. It's like, okay, there's a succession plan in place. We just got to get to the end of the year. But that might be a conspiracy theory. So take that with a grain of salt.
I don't know. Maybe it was planned. I mean, I honestly looked up nothing before we started this. So who's your new coach and what do you think of him?
So that's interesting. Jedd Fisch.
Jedd Fisch.
He was at Arizona.
Okay.
Past 3 years, he went 10-3. Yeah, 10-3. Which is the best Arizona's done in a long time. He's got NFL experience. He's got Big Ten experience. So this is the right hire. And like he's saying all the right things at his press conferences, and which, I mean, doesn't really mean that much, but
right. It's a good start.
Yeah, it is a good start. Let's see, what else about Jedd Fisch? He's hired NFL coordinators. He hired Pete Carroll's son to be the offensive coordinator and Bill Belichick's son to be the defensive coordinator. So Pete and Bill visit the Husky football facilities all the time.
Okay.
What else?
Well, put it this, you basically lost your entire football team, right?
Yes.
Okay. Have they picked the recruiting looking good? Is the portal transfers looking good?
The transfers are interesting because the quarterback replacing Michael Penix, we got Will Rogers, which he's the all-time leader in passing yards in the SEC, which I don't know how much of that is due to Mike Leach being his coach, the air raid offense, but they're going to build the offense around him. And then we've got some good receivers. We got Jeremiah Hunter from Cal, who is a very physical, big guy. It's kind of like a Romo Odunze, but not as fast.
Okay.
And who? Oh, we got Jonah Coleman, the running back from Arizona.
Okay.
I think he rushed for double-digit touchdowns last year. Or he's going to be our running back number 1.
Okay.
And let's see, who else is there? I'm drawing a blank. That's all I can think of right now.
So you have some players coming in.
Yeah. I think the biggest question mark this year is going to be the offensive line, because we haven't really built along the offensive line, and we lost 3 guys who could have been quality starters. So when you lose that kind of talent on the offensive line, it's going to be rough. It might be like what Colorado was last year.
Well,
it's like you have all these skill players, but then you don't have an offensive line, so you get sacked a lot.
So do you guys see yourselves when coming into the new Big Ten? I mean, you're looking at the 4 teams that are joining. USC, I don't know. We're going to see what they do without Caleb Williams, but Oregon's going to come in near the top.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself, where do you see yourself fitting in that pecking order?
Of the 4 new teams, I think it's going to be Oregon at the top, USC, UW, and UCLA.
Say that again.
So it's going to be Oregon at the top.
Okay.
USC, UW, and UCLA. Because
Okay.
UCLA, they're coming in with a new coach with no head coaching experience. They had a lot of talent, but like they couldn't put it together last year. And I don't know. I just feel like they're going through an adjustment period, just like we are. But I feel like the Huskies are better equipped to handle it because Jedd Fisch has been a head coach before, and Deshaun Foster's just been he played in the NFL for a long time, but he was a running backs coach.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, we're going to take some comments. First of all, Clay Casselder comes in early and says Mark Schafer is a great college football commentator's name, so you got that going for you. Go ahead.
I actually wanted to be a broadcaster growing up, but then I discovered I don't like to travel all that much. So,
well, anymore half those guys aren't at games.
Yeah, they just do Zoom commentary. I guess I could, but I don't know. I don't know if I really like talking all that much.
Jason Reeves comes in with this. Are there a lot of tears at Washington for those poor abandoned Cougars?
I'm going to say yes, but I'm only going to say yes because we're continuing the Apple Cup for the next 3 years. So we will get to see them again, but like they don't have a conference right now. I mean, It's them and Oregon State against the entirety of the Mountain West this year. So I do wish that they could get back on their feet and like rebuild the Pac-12 into something that resembles a normal football conference.
Do you think that'll happen?
Maybe. Because it wouldn't feel right for WSU and Oregon State to be in the Mountain West. There needs to be something where it's just like, all right, we're going to absorb the Pac-12 just needs to be like, all right, we're going to absorb the Mountain West, or we're going to get all these new teams. I think there's going to be something like that.
So do you think they'll call it the Pac-12 or whatever?
Yeah.
Pac-8, Pac-10?
They'll call it the Pac whatever. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hold on a second. Let me see if we got more comments. Minnie says he's a pretty good coach in terms of Jedd Fisch. I should have looked him up. Minnie also comes in with, how was your spring game, Mark?
Jedd Fisch did a thing that you don't see a lot of coaches doing, which is he started the spring game on a Friday night at 6:30. So he's kind of getting the Huskies used to those later kickoff times in the Big Ten. Spring game, I don't think you should put too much stock in the spring game, but it was fun. Like looking at all the highlights, it was fun. If only to see something football related again after 3 months of not.
Right. That's true for everybody.
Mm.
Your schedule starts out with Weber State, then Eastern Michigan, and then you got Washington State. And you said that the Apple Cup is going to continue for 3 years, and then what? It's just not.
I don't know. I mean, they renewed the series for 3 years, and then I think they might renew it again if there's mutual interest, which I'm sure there will be, because Coug fans always seem to want to play the Huskies,
Right.
and they'll show up because they travel really well, as will UW fans.
So there's interest on both sides. It's not a
Yeah.
it's not a vicious rivalry, is it?
Yes.
Like,
I would say it's a vicious rivalry, but like it's not as vicious as UW and Oregon. You know what I mean?
yeah, I think I do. Although I'd be honest with you, I know. Here's what I know about Washington. What was it? 1992. Paul Dallin, I think you posted the score earlier. It was 1992. The game ended up 27-14. I think we played you there. Let's go look it up. My God, Cloudflare is everywhere. Verify you're human. Maybe that's something on my end. 29-14. This was it. Second quarter, you guys scored 21 points. I think you were ranked you were ranked number 2. Nebraska was coming into Washington. And this was a game where that it was so loud. They kept talking about how the field level was louder than an aircraft liner, a jet airliner. And because of the way that your stadium is built, that there's overhangs that hold the crowd noise into the stadium.
Yep.
The officials lost complete control of this game. I thought about trying to find a clip of one pass into the end zone that was ruled a touchdown. The guy caught it, didn't complete the reception to the ground. They ruled it a touchdown. It was insanity. I was in a bar in Minneapolis screaming at the TV, and there you go. That's what I remember most about Washington.
Well,
you screwed us.
In that home and home series, if you remember, the previous year, Huskies had to go into Lincoln, and they were down, I think, like something like 20 points at halftime.
Let's go.
And then they scored 36 in the second half. Do I have that completely wrong?
We'll look it up. Let's see. It was 14-6 at the half, and then you scored 30 points in the third and fourth quarter. You scored 10 points in the third and 20 points in the fourth quarter. Billy Joe Hobart.
Yep.
Fourth ranked and eventual co-champion Washington. I believe that was Steve Empton, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Steve Empton, Mario Bailey, Billy Joe Hobart, and Mark Grinnell were all on that team.
And then, come on. The year, 1990, that's 90, that's 91, 92, 93. Don James gets sanctions against him. He thinks that he's supposed to get a 1-year bowl ban and the 2 years loss of TV revenue, and the athletic director gets him 2 years loss of 2-year bowl ban and 1 year loss of TV revenue. And basically what happens is
he resigns.
Yes, he resigned on the spot, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
The athletic director calls his wife, and his wife says to the athletic director, "You're not talking to him. You have hurt him more than you've hurt him now the most you ever will in your life. He's never going to talk to you again," or something along those lines. And Don James, who was kind of a legend, I kind of resented Washington for both of those games, but they were damn good games. I can say that now that it's years later. I've had a lot of hurt since then. Go ahead.
Don James has a statue at the University of Washington. So,
he does?
Yeah, he does.
Does the athletic director have a statue?
No.
Okay, let's see. What else we got up here? MK asks opinions on the former athletic director. I assume he's asking you.
Oh God.
Who's your former athletic director?
Oh, do you not know?
No, I'm blanking completely.
Who's Nebraska's athletic director now?
Oh, for God's sakes, it's Troy Dannon.
Yep.
My God, have I not paying attention to sports at all? Yeah, well, you're right. We took your athletic director. Talk about
Yep.
not even preparing. So,
I
what are your
was,
thoughts on that?
I was dreading this question because I'm just like, oh, I don't want to badmouth him. Um,
Well, you don't
but
have to. You could say he's a fine athletic director. That son of a bitch.
I mean, he was a fine athletic director. He got us our basketball coach, got a football coach, but then he left after 6 months after saying he wouldn't leave.
Yeah, but it's Nebraska come calling. I mean, we're like, whenever I think of a place that I want to live the rest of my life, it's Lincoln, Nebraska.
Well, dude's from Iowa, so I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Ah, my God. That's embarrassing that I'm not even
Yeah.
prepared for that. Uh okay. So would you say anything bad about him?
Um, just that he was lying through his teeth.
Well,
What he's
situations change.
Yeah, they do, but like if you're talking guy accepts a job after being at a fundraiser event for UW in Palm Springs, and he's like on the golf course, and he's like, "Hold on, I got to take this call," and it's Nebraska, and he immediately takes the job, and then he's on a private plane with the university president, and
Well,
and like they're heading back to Seattle. We were in our work group chat. We were like, "That's got to be the most awkward flight ever."
I was going to say I've been there and done that, but I'm an IT consultant in my real life, and I've had my times with customers where it was pretty. You just try to maintain professionality, and then you
Mhm.
get into your car and you swear a lot, or you try not to commit violence, particularly, and maybe you go home and smash in your bathroom walls, your wife's bathroom, and she reminds you of it for the next 20 years. Anyway, not that ever happened or anything.
Oh, of course not.
James Boardman comes in and he says the Huskies have a rematch with Michigan at Washington this year. How big is the hype for this game?
To be honest with you, I would think just because it's a rematch of the national championship, the hype is already going to be through the roof. It's an early candidate for college game day is going to come to Seattle or whatever, but beyond that, I don't know how either of these teams are going to come out. You know what I mean? Because they both have new coaches, and
Right,
they both have had their rosters gutted.
right.
In Michigan's case, probably a little less bad than UW, but yeah, I still think the hype for this game is going to be pretty high.
Well, Michigan is probably the only team that has not had a recruiting boost from a national title win. And
That is weird. I haven't thought about that until just now.
yeah. Well, it's June. College football is it's floating around out here, and maybe in July when Big Ten media days come back, we'll grab it and pull it close to us and gain knowledge. How's that for a horrible analogy? Well, put it this way: Michigan, I think last year was. I knew all the cheating and stuff and all the Jim Harbaugh stuff, and they knew everybody's signals and things. I just saw them. I just thought when I saw them play that they were going to win the national title because they didn't have any real flaws. They were so strong on the offensive line. I argue with. Go ahead.
With what their offense was designed to do.
Yeah.
It was like a runaway freight train. Like there was no stopping them. And I didn't.
Go ahead.
I didn't realize that until the national championship game. I was like, when they had their third string running back ripping off like 17-yard runs just like that, I was like, oh man, this is gonna be it didn't help that our defense could tackle.
Yeah, they didn't look good.
No.
Okay, Minnie comes in with that's because they are a bunch of cheaters. Minnie's good at hiding her feelings. Let's see. What else you got? Okay, Weber State, Eastern Michigan, Washington State, and then you have Northwestern for
Okay.
your first Big Ten game. What do you know about Northwestern football?
I know that Pat Fitzgerald got fired last summer. I know that he was one of the players on the Rose Bowl team in 1995. That's pretty much it.
Okay, let me tell you what's going to happen with Northwestern. No matter who they play, they get you into a rock fight. That's what we call it at Corn Nation. They get you into a rock fight. It's not like they do like what Iowa does, where they're happy with gaining 2 yards, but you'd never know what to expect from them next because you kind of just like they hit you with a small rock, and then the next one's a bigger rock, and then it's a small rock again, and then it's a bigger rock. And the next thing you know, you have no idea what they're doing because they seem content to like score 24 points a game to see if they can win.
Well, they're not like Iowa then, because Iowa won't even get you 24 points.
Right. But be aware of that when you're playing Northwestern. Then, okay, here's the thing. Then after that, you go to Rutgers. Are you going to go to this game? Are you going to go to this game?
No.
New Jersey is one of the top destination points for all Americans.
I mean, I've been to New York, so. But no, I'm not really worried. I'm probably going to eat these words. I'm not really worried about what Greg Schiano is going to do.
Well, now you're doomed. You know, we had a coach that showed up and said the Big Ten is going to have to change for us, and that just turned out really great. Okay, Martha Benner comes in and she says, "Not sure if this is good or bad. I am a big Red fan in Portland, Oregon." Well, you know, we need spies everywhere, Martha, so it's fine that you're there. Let's see. Oh my God. Paul Dalen says, pro tip, no online kicks. I think he meant no offside kicks or no onside kicks.
No onside kicks.
Let's see. I seriously do not onside kick up 11 against Northwestern. Then he comes back with Piscataway is a cool town. I
haven't been to New Jersey except for when I was really young.
I would think that that would be a great place to go if you were like sentenced there for a crime. You know, it's just I've never been to New York either. Lord. I've been to like Maryland. I've worked in Maryland, kind of places like that, but I haven't been up in that whole Northwestern. Okay, then we have after Rutgers, we have Michigan at Washington, and then on October 12th, you go to Iowa, Kinnick Stadium. Are you going to that game?
No, I would like to go to Kinnick Stadium though.
Why?
Someday. Because I think it looks cool, and the wave to the Children's Hospital is a cool tradition.
That's fair.
But I would not want to go see Kirk Ferentz score 9 points on field goals under 40 yards.
You have this down.
I mean, I hate Kirk Ferentz, but I love Kirk Ferentz.
Oh, I had a question about Iowa and it just went away. How long do you I know what it is. How long do you think it will take you to hate Iowa?
I feel like here's what's gonna happen. All right, it's gonna be like 3-0 Iowa at halftime, and I'm gonna be like, okay, what are we doing? What is going on? And they're gonna have like 2 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles, and every Washington fan is just gonna be like, okay, what is this? What did we get ourselves into?
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
You do realize that like the entire rest of the Big Ten hates Iowa.
Oh, do they?
Yes.
Because
Like literally last year, we lost the first game of the season against Minnesota. And as we were walking out of the stadium, both fan bases started chanting, "Who hates Iowa? We hate Iowa," together. That's how much people hate Iowa.
I mean,
This is something you got to prepare. Well, not prepare for. You just kind of get into it. You're suddenly, I don't know. It's like, I don't know, standing in a river, in a stream, and you're looking at the beauty all around you, and it suddenly hits you. I hate Iowa. It's a revelation. It'll just hit you.
I would hate a team that like grinds you down too.
That's not it. I don't know. They're just, anyway, we should move on. I mean, we abuse Iowa all the time. You'll get used to it. Then you get to go to at Indiana, which, in terms of vacation spots, Bloomington, Indiana is right up there with, Iowa City. Are you going to that game?
Probably not. Indiana's kind of in the same boat that we are. They had Michael Penix before he transferred to Washington. I'll always remember that play where he's reaching towards the pylon in overtime to beat Penn State. Everybody's storming the field. I was watching that game with my dad, and I was like, "Who is this quarterback?"
Right, right.
4 years later, he's probably my favorite Husky of all time. But yeah, Indiana's going to be interesting because they're not really a football power.
Nope.
But I think their new coach did a really good job with James Madison last year. By all accounts, I talked to the Indiana blog, Crimson Quarry. They like the Kurt Cignetti hire, so it's going to be interesting.
So, okay, Indiana. Then you got USC, and you're used to playing them. You get them at home.
Yep.
But then you get, after that, you get Penn State at Penn State.
Oh, Lord. Whiteout game.
Is it going to be, you think? Or is it
I hope it is. I don't know.
Well, the time isn't set yet. I'm guessing it might be a whiteout game. What do you think at Penn State?
James Franklin is just one of those guys, man, where like every year you're like, okay, this is the year they're finally gonna fire him and they're gonna get somebody good, but then he always goes like 8-4, 9-3, 10-2.
He's always third.
Yeah.
Well, and then you finish the season. You finish the season with UCLA, with whom you're used to playing, and Oregon. And Oregon, you get at Oregon, and UCLA, you get. So I guess they let you finish the season against your own people, for lack of better terms. All right. So what do you see happening with Washington's inaugural football season in the Big Ten? I mean, is there any?
With an early look at this schedule, I would say 7-5.
Okay.
Between 7-5 and 8-4. It's not going to be like, oh my God, Jed Fish is going to come out and light the world on fire. Though if he does, I would not be mad at all. If we go like 10-2, Will Rogers passes for like 5,000 yards. Anyway, I think it's going to be more like 8-4. We need time to get our system set in, and I think with first-year head coaches, you got to give them at least a year of leeway, and then in year 2, you got to expect the jump.
Well, that's what we're hoping for in Nebraska, anyway.
Yeah, do you think Matt Rule can do the job?
Well, I do. I think he's the. You know what? I think he's the right coach for us. I think everything he's been saying and everything he's been doing, he's been very professional. He seems like he can recruit high caliber players, recruits, get them in. I mean, it's just last year. If we'd have had a quarterback that wouldn't throw the ball to the other team in Nebraska, listen, there was like 84,000 turnovers that cost this game. If we can eliminate that, we will be a decent team. If we can actually come up with an offense to score 30 points a game, we're going to be 10-2. And I think we have a lot of we have a lot of skill players. And it's just a matter of our quarterbacks going to be able to put the points on the board and run the offense and stuff like that in their first season.
Is Dylan Raiola going to start this year?
I think he is.
Okay.
I saw today where they just had it. They had a guy into camp who was like the NAIA Player of the Year.
Really?
As a quarterback, and he's looking at possibly going to Nebraska as a postgraduate. And I think that would be an interesting, apparently he's thrown the ball all over the place and has a lot of experience. I think he would be an interesting, guy to have to say that guy's at least played football. Maybe it was NAIA football, but it's still just football, for God's sake.
Yeah, because that's like an NFL thing to do, where you get the young guy and then you get the veteran to maybe learn for a year behind him.
Yeah.
That's what the Huskies are kind of doing with Will Rogers and Damon Williams, even though their skill sets are completely different. Because Will Rogers has played for, I think this is going to be season number 6. So this is going to be his last year. And then Damon Williams will take over next year.
All right. LFG comes in with, this guy is realistic. That'd be you, Mark. It's certainly not me. Props to him. So refreshing not to hear an unobjective assessment. You're not being a homer as much.
I'm not going to be like, oh, we're going to go undefeated. I would like to go undefeated. I'd like to go undefeated every year, but realistically, that's not going to happen.
We'll introduce you to Fred Sacco, who is one of our favorite people here. He's actually been fairly calm. But he says, I can't see being inspired by my God, a man named Jeb Fish. Sounds like a failed used car salesman. Are you going to take that?
I'll refute that with his coaching record. I have it pulled up here. Denver Broncos wide receivers coach, offensive coordinator at Minnesota, quarterbacks coach of the Seattle Seahawks, offensive coordinator at Miami, Jacksonville Jaguars OC, quarterbacks coach at Michigan, UCLA offensive coordinator and interim head coach. So this guy,
it sounds to me, Mark, like he couldn't hold a job.
Well, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
This guy, his main selling point is, if you come to Washington, you're going to be a pro. He has the staff to get you there. He's got Brendan Carroll, Pete Carroll's son, and he's got Steve Belichick, who called the plays on defense for the Patriots last year. Okay. So can I go off on a tangent real quick?
Sure.
It is so weird to see Bill Belichick in a W hoodie at spring practices, because it's like, I have watched this man my entire life wear nothing but Patriots hoodies.
We had that experience at Nebraska too. He came and he did a coaching clinic. So it's like Bill Belichick is suddenly a coaching slut. He's everywhere.
He was at the NBA Finals wearing a UW polo just like mine yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
What the hell? Well, I guess his son's there. All right.
Well,
one more question about football, and then we're going to get to some other sports.
All right.
Out of all the Big Ten teams, who do you think is going to become your let's project yourself out 5-10 years? You're young. You got all of this in front of you. Who do you think is going to become Washington's big rival in the new Big Ten? You think it'll just continue to be the Pac-12 schools that they played all these years, or you think they'll find somebody new to hate?
I think it's going to be a mixture of both. I think it's going to be Oregon and maybe Ohio State. I'm not sure why, but I just feel like we're going to hate Ohio State so much.
Well, that's a common thread.
Yeah, I just have a gut feeling, not even Michigan, just Ohio State.
Minnie says, wait, are there other sports? Yes, there are other sports. How many sports does Washington field?
I do not have the number off the top of my head. Hold on.
Okay. Do they have a baseball team?
They do. It's not very good.
Okay. Well, then it won't get mine getting destroyed by going to the Big Ten. Do they have a softball team?
They do. It's really good.
Okay. Well, softball in the Big Ten is a pretty decent sport, although Oklahoma and Texas just played in the College World Series for softball, and Oklahoma won their third straight title. My question for you is this. It is football by far. I mean, Nebraska football by far is our biggest sport. Nebraska football, salt and pepper, peanut butter jelly, that's what happens. After that, I would say it's probably baseball is our next big, volleyball. That's really dumb of me. You can tell how quick I am tonight.
Yeah.
Volleyball, baseball. But Nebraskans love all of their sports. They love them a lot. We have a strong wrestling program, strong wrestling following. After football, what is Washington's most loved sport? Not maybe the one that they're best in, but what do they love the most?
So all the revenue sports, your football, basketball. But we at the University of Washington, we love softball, and we love rowing.
Rowing,
yes. And we have a good track and field squad. And, but track and field's only been cut in recent years.
Rowing.
Yes, rowing.
Is there somebody help me out? Does anybody else in the Big Ten have a rowing team?
UW has. Hold on.
Okay. Okay.
UW has 20 national championships in men's rowing.
Okay.
So, you ever seen the movie Boys in the Boat?
Yeah. No, I haven't. I'm familiar with it, but
that's about UW rowing at the 36 Olympics.
I did not know this.
Yep.
Wow. Minnie comes with. I missed it. Minnie, God dang it! Holy shit. Minnie comes in and says, and I thought bowling and rifle were obscure. Nebraska actually has a bowling team and a rifle team, and they're both actually. I don't know how many titles we've won in bowling, but rifle usually beats the armed services. So be careful about be careful about making fun of Nebraska women wherever you are. If you're outdoors, because they'll kick your ass in a minute. They won't even think.
Yeah.
So basketball, how's your basketball team? Men's and women's.
So, women's pretty good. We made the women's NIT this year, and I feel like our coach for the women's team is building something. I mean, she's only in year 2, so she's going to get better.
Okay.
Men's basketball. Historically, we've been good, but not great. Good enough to make the tournament, but Mike Hopkins, man. I hate Mike Hopkins. So he was Jim Boeheim's guy, his right-hand man at Syracuse for a long time. And then he comes to UW, he implements the zone, and we go to the tournament in year 1, and we're thinking, oh my God, this is going to be great. This man has solved all of our problems. No tournament appearances for the rest of his tenure. And he finally got fired this past year.
Okay.
So we went out and hired Danny Sprinkle, who does not sound like a basketball coach.
No, he sounds like.
But Danny
I'm not going to say what he sounds like.
Yeah, Danny Sprinkle's dad, Bill, played football for the Huskies back in the late '60s. So there is a connection there.
Okay.
Danny Sprinkle was at Utah State and Montana State, and he led both of those teams to the tournament.
Okay.
And he's been doing a great job in his limited time he's been on the job. He's recruited really well. He has won the press conferences, as they say.
Okay.
And I think we're going to make the tournament this year. And I think
wait a minute. What?
Yeah.
In men's basketball.
In men's basketball.
Have you paid attention to Big Ten basketball?
I am a little worried about Purdue.
Well, oh my God, dude. Big Ten basketball is like a slugfest every week. Every game is like some kind of hellhole. Last year, Nebraska, I think, finished third, but almost everybody did finish, I think, except Purdue, with a losing record on the road. So road games are just Northwestern wins at home, and they're not good at basketball. I mean, we're normally not good, but they're normally. I can't say anything negative about anybody else at basketball because we're just traditionally we're the worst power program in basketball. Anyway, Big Ten basketball is going to be a hellhole for you guys.
Yeah.
So saying you're making the tournament, I mean, that's like declaring yourself a national champion already.
Well, I mean, I might be a realist, but I'm also an optimist by trade. So I feel like with what he said about, like, we got to recruit the local guys and we got to get the best players and the players that want to win. Well, I mean, every coach says that, but one of Mike Hopkins' biggest failures as a basketball coach is he did not recruit the local. He recruited the local talent, but he couldn't utilize it in an effective way because he was so stubborn with running the zone that I wanted to rip my hair out. And then last year he switched to man-to-man, and he was better than he was in a long time, but still not good enough to make the tournament.
Okay, let's see. LFG comes in with put some respect on the University of Washington, around 35 sports.
Yep.
I did not know this. So you probably have a men's water polo team.
We do not. We don't have any swimming program.
Oh, really? Then how the hell do you have sailing?
No, actually.
What 35 sports? Do you have fencing? Is jiu-jitsu a sport?
No. We have golf.
Well, that's kind of common. A list of Washington Husky sports.
We have club hockey.
Okay, club hockey. Well, maybe you'll raise that up and you'll join the Big Ten in hockey. Let's see.
Does Nebraska have a hockey team?
Wait a minute. I look on Wikipedia and it says 22 varsity teams. Clay Casselder comes in with this. Any logging sports? Do you have any? Are there logging sports in Washington?
Unfortunately, no. I would watch Big Ten logging if that was a thing, though.
I buy that thing. Maybe they have to chainsaw a large tree down, then pick it up by the trunk and try to throw it.
Yeah, like the caber toss.
I watched this. Okay, now we're going off the rails, aren't we? Let's see. Men's rowing, women's rowing. Okay, you have rowing. I don't think there's not going to be rowing in Nebraska. I think there was a club sport when I was at Nebraska. There was rowing, Nebraska rowing. Let's see, Pacific Coast Championships, women's basketball. You know what I didn't do? I didn't look up the records of all the times in every sport that you played us, and that's one thing I should have.
I have some thoughts about that. So,
okay.
Right around when I was 11 years old, I remember one Saturday I was sitting at the dining room table and the Huskies were on, and it was when, what was it, Jared Crick?
Okay, yeah.
Your guys' defensive end. It was when he was there, and he was just a monster. He could not be stopped. And Jake Locker, I think, went 4 for 20 for like 46 yards and 3 interceptions.
Oh, the good old days.
Hold on.
We're looking stuff up here. That's where we've gotten to.
Yep. So it was 56-21.
Okay.
Taylor Martinez he was 7 of 11 for 150 yards and a touchdown. but he had 137 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. And I was like, oh, that might have been the worst game of Steve Sarkisian's Husky tenure to that point. But then we come into the Holiday Bowl like 3 months later, and Steve Sarkisian's like, we're gonna slow everything down and we're just gonna grind it out. And we ended up winning 19-7.
Nebraska football. Okay. Let's see. What are we going to end this thing out with? Let's go through some comments here. Okay. Oh, one of the things about this, Paul Dalen said this very early, and he said Pac teams need to get used to early games, not later. I mean, have you looked at start times and stuff? I mean, how big of an adjustment is this going to be for you guys?
I think only a few games have been announced. So the Weber State game is on at like 8 o'clock at night, which is weird. But we're used to that. And then the Rutgers game is on at like 6 o'clock our time, which, again, we're used to that.
Okay.
And then I think the UCLA game is on at 5 o'clock our time. But I could have that backwards.
So are there going to be any games that start at like 7 a.m. or anything?
No, I think the earliest they could start is 9, right?
Who can tell? It's a new world we're going into. Okay. Let's see. Dana Williams says, how well does UW execute 3 yards in a cloud of dust? What do you think your offense is going to look like under your new coach?
So it's going to be a lot like Kalin Deboer's offense. So we're going to be putting the ball in the air a lot, but we do have some really good running backs coming back.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how well we're not going to line up in the wing T or anything like that. But we're not going to be like what Woody Hayes said. There's 3 things that can happen when you throw the ball, and 2 of them are bad.
Right.
I think we'll be able to run the ball.
Okay.
To what extent, I don't know. And is it going to be sustainable throughout the season? I have no idea.
Okay. Minnie comes in with, Mark, which teams are your biggest rivals?
Big rivalries. Oregon and Washington State.
Okay. And you have the Apple Cup every year is the big rivalry game with Washington State.
Yeah.
And then
the UW Oregon rivalry, which some people call it the border war, but I don't. Border war is something else.
It is, isn't it? Okay.
That's like Utah. No, Utah and BYU is the Holy War.
Let's see. Jason Reeves comes in with, Mark, I dare you to watch 3 full Iowa games back to back without assistance of alcohol or mood altering substances. That is something, to point out, just so you're aware of it. You really should mediate or kind of moderate. That's the word I'm looking for. Your Iowa football intake, don't binge. You just, you'll end up with a depressed view on life and
I think the only Iowa game I watched for even a little bit last year was the 12-10 game against Minnesota.
You mean the one where they lost because of the invalid signal?
Yeah, the invalid fair catch.
Yeah. My youngest son went to Minnesota. I actually live in Minnesota. My family watched that, and we were oh my God, Iowa's punt return. And then they called it back, and it was like pandemonium because as I said, everybody literally, you could probably solve world problems with everybody just agreeing to hate Iowa. You're going to find this out. That's probably one of the bigger things you're going to find out.
Yeah, Kirk, go away.
Okay, let's see. We did that one. I have no idea what Jason Reeves is talking about when he says I've been a logger all my life.
Oh, talking about competitive logging earlier.
Clay Casselder comes in and says, do you have animal judging?
No, that's something for, I think Texas A&M has won 6 straight meat judging titles.
How do you know this? Oh my
I just
God.
do. I'm a wealth of obscure college sports information.
Let's see. Clay also comes in with, let me know if you need directions to Iowa, because it
Well,
can be hard to find.
all the counties are square, so I don't know if it's very possible to get lost.
Well, the other thing is what if you're lost at all and you're like out, like going around in states, you just roll your window down, you smell for the pig shit, then you go in that direction, you'll find Iowa. That's where it is. Paul Dalen asks about meat judging. Do you have meat judging?
We do not.
Do you have like fishing sports?
No, but we should.
Yeah. I have never, I want to say I've never been to Washington, and I've always wanted to go to that part of the nation. I was in Vancouver, Canada for a week one time for IT stuff. I think I flew into Vancouver, Washington to get out of there, but that doesn't count. Being in
So
airport.
I live in southeastern Washington, so this is nothing
Okay.
like Seattle. Like
Okay.
it's 87 degrees here right now.
Okay.
So I live in kind of a deserty sort of area. But yeah, the climate's change once you get to the west side of the state.
Okay. But God, I really need to get up there. Yeah, my niece, I have a niece. I think she's in Oregon. She sends me photos all the time of all the salmon and the different trout she catches, and it's like, you suck. All right, let's see. Directions to Iowa. Wait, what? Oh my God, you guys! I'm looking for any good comments to fin. Clay Casselder says, I think it's called livestock judging.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you might be right.
This is the kind of the new thing you're going to have to get used to in the Big Ten, by the way. A
Like,
lot of agricultural jokes that are really just weird and kind of, like eating corn the wrong way, right?
yeah.
You're gonna you have to well, let's see if we can, just so we know. Oh my God, it's not in this brand, is it? Oh, see, this is not how you eat corn. Just so you know.
I know that.
That is not that's not how you eat corn. Okay,
Yeah, no.
we're kind of going off the rails a little bit. If you've got any questions for Mark, get them in, and we'll probably end up soon. We do not play you in football this year. We'll probably play you in other sports.
I think you play us in basketball.
Well, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, which is going to be a heck of an opportunity because I get to see how Fred Hoiberg coaches.
I think he's a good coach. I just basketball has been it's been a mountain that Nebraska hasn't scaled yet.
Right.
I mean, we had a few decent years where we won the Big 8, but that was years ago. And like I said, we are the worst power program in the history of basketball, like everywhere, right? Because of that one thing. We've never won an NCAA tournament game, but we'll still win all our games at home. Just so you know that.
Wait, really?
What?
Nebraska's never won an NCAA tournament game?
Oh my God! What? No, we haven't. You got some certain joy out of that.
That's just It's shocking to me.
Yes, thank you so much. No, we've never won an NCAA tournament game.
I'm sorry, but like, I did not know that.
Well, okay. Hold on a second. Doggone it, I missed it. There it is. Clay Casselder says, "What's the food of choice in Washington?"
Washington as a whole. Well, we get a lot of fresh fish.
Yeah. I mean, is it salmon?
Salmon, cod, just fish in general.
Wow. Okay. Cade Peterson comes in with a $5 super chat. Maybe gives the rest of you guys an idea. NAIA Player of the Year quarterback Jalen Gramstad was at post-grad camp today. Curious what your thoughts are. I just mentioned this earlier. I mean, he was like, he's a guy that has experience. And I think when you look at Nebraska's roster for quarterbacks, we have the one freshman Phelan and Dylan Raiola. You have Danny Kalin, who's another freshman who may be able to become a good quarterback, but he's still a freshman and has a lot of development to do. You have Heinrich Harburg, who isn't going to be the throw the ball all over the place guy. And in the offense, I think they want to run. So you only have 3 quarterbacks. That's not Nebraska only has 3 scholarship quarterbacks. That's not enough quarterbacks on a roster. So I think this guy would be a very good addition in that he has experience. It may be at the NAIA level, but if he can play at that level, who was it? Samari Torre came to us from, what was it? Montana State. And he was like the lower level player of the year there. And he came up and
the Walter Payton Trophy winner or what?
Well, he was a receiver and he went on to play for the Green Bay Packers. So, I mean, you can pull a guy up from that division level and maybe he can do good football. So,
we had
yeah.
What was I gonna say? Huskies had a defensive back a couple years ago. Why am I blanking on his name? But he came up from UC Davis, but he got hurt, so we didn't get to see him play. And like our excuse was, if we would have had this guy, we would have been better on defense.
This is a terrible inside joke, but MK asked, what kind of gravy pairs best with fish?
So, not even going to handle that one.
Is there a gravy that goes with fish?
No. I mean, I guess the closest thing to a gravy would be like tartar sauce, but like you don't eat tartar sauce with fresh fish. That's like a fish and chips thing.
I agree with you. Tartar sauce is for when you get really horrible stuff. Okay, and then I missed something later. Street fish. Street fish? Are they just fish from the streets? Okay, we have strayed off we're straight off all over the place. One last thing I want to ask you.
Yes.
Nil. I call it nil. Most people call it NIL. I'm different that way, I guess. How is Oregon has like a budget because of Phil Knight that's just like we could buy 3 states. How is Washington?
We can buy all these players and we can't win a national championship. Anyway. How
is Washington doing?
So go UW's ahead. NIL is actually, they're not bad, but they're not great either. They're not on par with, the Ohio States or those kinds of schools. And that was one of the things that I'm not sure if you're aware, but Troy Dannon said that the other day. That's probably why you're asking me about that.
But I mean, nil is going to be the way that everybody, at some point, it's probably going to go away because of all the lawsuits and things like that. But let's say for the next 5 years, it's going to be a thing.
And like, people are saying like, this transfusion of money is ruining college football. It's like, did you ever watch the 30 for 30 about the SMU death penalty?
No, but I'm old enough and I remember it.
Well, they were talking to one of the assistant coaches, where he was like, I would talk to assistant coaches from other Southwest Conference programs that went like 3-9 that year. They were spending 6 figures to get one guy too. So this is not a new thing. It's like it's only gotten this much attention because it's legal now.
Well, when if I remember correctly, when the Southwest Conference ended, half the teams were under investigation or on some kind of probation.
Yeah.
That's how bad the Southwest Conference was.
Yeah.
But okay. So you guys are doing okay with nil, but you're not way up there.
Yeah, we're not with the new money. We're very like, we're going to have this budget, and if you want to come to Washington, you do so not because of the money, but because of like you want to get good coaching or you want to like go to Washington if you want to be a student athlete. But
okay, Clay Casselder asked me, John, on a serious note, how does Nebraska get its mojo back? You know what? It's June. You know,
Yes.
this is the least college football-y time of the year, I guess. You know, it's been way in the rearview mirror. It's not coming up again till July when Big Ten Media Days comes up. But I'll say this: Nebraska got part of its mojo back last year when their defense played extremely well. In one single season, we with the 3-3-5 that we all thought was going to be a terrible defense, Nebraska played defense well, extremely well, I think, for a first year and everything, and having the players learn it. And we were all afraid that the defensive line isn't going to be good, and they kicked ass. We just didn't have an offense. So how does Nebraska get its mojo back? It gets its mojo back by having a quarterback or having an offensive team that hangs onto the ball. I think they just don't commit stupid mistakes. We've watched our own football team shoot themselves in the foot for years in God knows how many different ways. And during the entire 3-9, best 3-9 team in history, they lost games every week by the most amazing ways possible you couldn't write in a fiction novel. So just stop making stupid mistakes. Bam, your mojo is going to come back. That's what I think.
Yeah. And I'm just going to add, what got Nebraska's mojo in the first place? Run the ball.
Yeah.
Run the ball.
We might be different. We might be more of a, with Dylan Royale is a completely different quarterback than any other quarterback we've really recruited at that level.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Tommy Fraser, we had Eric Crouch, we had the guys that could run the ball and do the option and do things like that.
Yeah,
So yeah, exactly. We try not to say his name too much, just so you know that.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. We'll have to ban you after this. But it's gonna. I think our offense is going to be quite different. On the other hand, saying that really doesn't mean anything because our offense, if our offense just works, it'll be quite different than it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that was one thing that during the Kalin Deboer era I was immediately struck by, because last few years under Chris Peterson, the 2 years under Jimmy Lake, our offense was the Chris Peterson offenses were good, but then later down the line, it came out like, okay, there's something wrong with this offense. You know what I mean? But then Kalin Deboer comes in, and I'm like, oh, thank God, we don't have to worry about scoring points anymore. Because I don't know if I've ever seen an offense at the college level where it's just like no matter what the situation was, we were going to score some kind of points, be it a field goal, touchdown, whatever. And it's a wonderful thing to have if you can get it.
All right. I usually try to go for an hour or over an hour. I don't know. Do you have anything else you would like to add that we haven't talked about coming into the Big Ten and having all these new opponents, how much you're going to look forward to hating Iowa, and, maybe who else, maybe besides Iowa, are you looking forward to hating the most?
Probably, I don't know if I would really hate anybody in the new Big Ten besides Oregon and Ohio State, excuse me.
Well, you have a lot to learn, young man.
Yes, I do. But I'm not the type of person that's like, I irrationally hate Iowa because Iowa's Iowa, even though I will be. I feel like
I think that there's, irrational hate Iowa. That's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
It's just hate Iowa. There you go.
Because like the final score to the UW Iowa game is going to be like 13-3.
Yeah, it probably is. That's true. Oh, wait a minute. Tiger Shark Diver, who I haven't mentioned, saying Scotch Frost is Nebraska is like, that's not the one I was looking for God's sakes. It was Jason Reeves. John's wife puts him in the bathroom. The fact that we were losing was irrelevant. There have been times when we've lost where I have to leave the family for a while. I have to go outside in the cold. I have to, so the bathroom actually was a very good place because my bathroom is way down in the basement so that it can be closer to hell. And then that's because Mark, I'm actually famous for doing reaction videos after football games while sitting on my toilet. So
that's awesome.
Tiger Shark Diver says, Wade, wow, John, way to break my heart. That's what I'm here for. All right. I think that's going to do it. I don't know. Washington.
Yes.
Welcome to I guess
that's a ringing endorsement. Washington. I don't know.
Well, we don't play you this year. I guess welcome to the Big Ten.
And I don't know anything about modern Nebraska, to be fair.
Well, we are going to learn.
Yes. I'm very excited to learn.
Mark, you seem like a really nice guy, but I hope you learn with a lot of tears. Okay. Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
All right. I think that's going to do it for tonight. Thank you all for being here. I do not have, it's June 10th. I do not have a guest yet for next week, but I think the week after, my cardiologist is actually going to join us, and we're going to talk about heart attacks because, Mark, I had a heart attack a few years ago and I died for a while, and it sucks. Don't have a heart attack. That hell of a way to end the show, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. I'll try not to.
All right. Good night, everybody. I gave Mark this thing at the end. He's like, what the hell? All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you, Mark, for being here.
Thank you for having me, John. It was a great time.
All right.